Thanks for having me today. Appreciate that. Those kind words. As we've been kind of talking today, one of the needs Rob's kind of talked about, when it reaches our point, there's been a lot of dysfunction. There obviously hasn't been planning in place, and it really becomes a problem. A lot of our referrals come through Department of Children and Families, or they come from attorneys, and it's usually mostly disaster cases. Get that first slide up. Florida ranks #1 in percentage of elderly, and that makes them prime candidates for being exploited. Laura Moody came to visit us, and she was speaking, she's with the state attorney's office, and they're really seeing a rise in the scams and the elderly that's really it's escalating. And here's what was really a scary statistic, was that 30% of exploitation cases are done by a son or a daughter. Isn't that horrible? But we know, I'm going to read to you 1 Timothy 3, verses 1 through 5. But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, slanderous, without self-control, not loving good, conceited, loving of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And that's, we just see that like day to day. As far as abuse goes, there's just terrible cases out there. One not recently, just a couple years ago, one of the guardians got a gentleman, he had over 20 cigarette burns on his body from the caregivers. Another case, the DCF found when they lifted the lady that she had maggots underneath, she was so bedbound. I mean, horrible, really horrible, horrendous stories. But these cases that I'm about to share with you, a couple of true cases that we've come across, are actual stories that have happened, that if people had applied some of the principles you're learning here today of preparing, they might not have happened. Can you go to the next slide, please? And this first story is about a sweet little lady named Gemma. She was in her mid-90s, and when her grandson with his girlfriend moved into the home, they remodeled the house for Grandma. Wasn't that nice? They made her a little room. Her room was in the garage. They turned the house into a meth lab. And there was a fire, so she was eventually taken to the hospital, ended up in assisted living, and she ended up living happily, safely to 101 years old. But here, this poor thing, the relative coming to help her, right? Sad. That was little Miss Gemma. Next slide, please. This one is one of the common scams that we're really seeing, you probably know individuals this has happened to, is some of these lottery scams. They're calling up saying, you won the lottery. And also IRS is one of the latest one, calling up IRS and saying that they're from the IRS, you owe us money. If you mail us money, we'll make sure you don't get arrested. Scaring these people, are being very intimidated and scared by that. IRS never does phone calls. They'll only mail you, mail letters. But these lottery schemes are really horrible. One particular case, this gentleman Ken. Now he's a retired police officer. He's the caregiver of his wife who had Alzheimer's, and this had gone on for years. He was very lonely. He was probably caregiver burnout, and he got calls, and they're running out of money. Because medically, they're going through money because of the medical situation. He gets a call that he won the lottery. This Jamaican lottery, $1 million he won. This was going to be his out. This could be helping him. And he was convinced, they really are so convincing when they talk to them. These people are very good at their trade. They're very believing, and it's so sad. And these people that they're targeting are usually they're lonely or they're alone, and they just really are vulnerable to being exploited like that. So this gentleman ended up giving away over $200,000, his whole life savings, to this scam before guardianship got involved. And it's just sad, so very sad. The next slide. This next slide is a sweet gentleman named Victor. He had been married over 50 years.
That's not Victor. No, that's...
But that's the sweet young thing that came to see them. But what happened was, married 50 years, his wife dies. A few months later, I wish I had the time on my cheat sheet there, a picture of the slide. But if you could have a timeline on it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. So he was married, lost his wife in October, and then this visitor comes in around, February. Nice, sweet young thing. She's gonna help him. She's gonna comfort him, right? So before you know it, a month later, she's moved in, she's got control of the finances, they bought a brand new car. She had a Prada $200 purse that was for his incontinence supplies. And brought her family to come stay at the home. Some of her relatives moved into the home. Had the house quitclaimed into her name. I mean, this lady just snowballed her way in. She was 30 years younger than him, I believe.
Yeah, and she had 3 older men in their 70s working with her that were going around to these senior centers trolling for easy hits. So if you're a criminal when you're young, you're probably going to be a criminal when you're old.
I think one of the worst things that happened, or one of the atrocious things that happened in this case that just burns me, is the night before the guardianship, she takes him out, they go drinking, right? She gets him drunk, and now he's on medications. He's in his mid-70s with early dementia, shouldn't have medications anyway. And the worst thing, she had her name tattooed on his arm the night before the guardianship. Or, you know, oh, what's that? That's just like no conscience. There's just no conscience. Yeah. So that's the Anna Nicole Smith story. The next slide.
By the way, she died a year later. Robin, you called me on that. Was it an overdose? And I prayed God would remove her, but I didn't quite mean it that way.
Now this story, sweet lady, she was in her 70s. She had some medical issue, ended up rehab. They sent her to skilled nursing. They put her in the memory care locked unit of this facility, of a skilled nursing facility. She was there for a year, and when I met her, the facility called me because they needed someone to apply for benefits for her. They had nobody to speak for her. She did have some memory disorders, but she had been secluded herself in her room, and she did not want anything to do with any of the residents. She was not like them. She was one of these, but what was nice was she made friends with the staff. So the staff got to be friends with her. They bring her coffee and Dunkin' Donuts and Burger King, and she had a great relationship with staff, but she really yelled if any of the residents came even near her. Turns out I was able to get her out of that facility. It's like, why don't you go and talk with her? She was very alert, and I'm like, she does not need to be in this locked unit. Able to get her moved to an assisted living facility where she's thriving. She has more freedom, she can go downstairs, and where she was so antisocial, she now comes out and goes to the events, sits and listens to the music, socializes with the other residents, and she's just thriving. I saw her the other day, she's doing awesome. And that was her name. But what's sad here was she has 5 children. She was in a locked unit for a year. She had 1 visitor one time in the whole year, 5 kids. And that's just, it's sad. It's what's happened. They're so dysfunctional, all this stuff. So, but we don't know, we don't know how she was with the kids growing up. We don't really know when we get these cases. Some of the things that please. So what are some things you can look for?
What does ALF mean?
Pardon?
What does ALF mean?
I'm sorry, assisted living facility. That's a less restrictive environment than a skilled nursing facility. But some things you can look for, if you've noticed in people that you're coming in contact with, change in overall health or behavior, if there have been any recent hospitalizations, any significant health change, maybe the person you're noticing people being more paranoid, or they become easily agitated, or they're getting confused, is there qualified people in place to help them? And that's where we've got to kind of keep up, watch for those red flags. Is there somebody there that they can count on as trustworthy? Maybe there's a change in financial situations, their bills not being paid, or their bills are delinquent. Are they complaining about not having money where they never used to complain about that before? Maybe someone's exploiting them financially, or they're caught up in these scams where they have to keep mailing off hundreds of thousands of dollars. Are there new people on the scene? Have relatives recently moved in? Are the relatives allowing you access to the person? Because what happens, an exploiter will stop any communication from that person with the outside world. And they stop protecting, oh, she's busy right now, oh, she's sleeping. And they're making all these excuses why you can't see that person, and they're secluding them. And so just kind of watching if there's relatives on the scene. Are there contractors? A lot of people trying to do work around the house. That is there oversight there? Those people, licensed people. And if there's any sudden changes to long-standing legal documents, a lot of our referrals have come through attorneys that people have come in, and like in that case with Anna Nicole Smith, It was the prior power of attorney noticing what's going on with the financial documents, with this lady putting her name on these documents, that, the red flag, he went to the attorney, they said, we need a guardian, so immediately did the emergency guardianship. So if there's some kind of changes in long-standing documents.
By the way, the power of attorney that came in to help try to get her out, he hired a woman to live with him 24/7, and this is a power of attorney who's 82 years old himself. And was she a pole dancer? Or she was something. She was something really bad. And she was.
$50 a minute, something like that.
And this is the lady who was paid to live with. This is before Anna Nicole Smith. Got it?
So what else do you do? So what's your next step? So we're going to try to identify the problem. You'll identify if any of these little red flags trigger. Is somebody in place to help these people? If not, call Robin, call somebody and say, what's our next step? If there's obvious abuse that they're bruised, black eyes, obvious abuse going on there, you want to call 1-800-96-ABUSE and want to report that immediately. We immediately get them some help. But you could also notify the church elders, your senior church outreach program group, to just help these people. And not just say, when you call, people report a call to DCF or Adult Protective Services, that 1-800-96-ABUSE, that's an anonymous call. You don't feel like, oh, they're going to know it's me and they won't ever talk to me again. Feel comfortable calling them. It is anonymous. And what the Protective Services will do is they'll go out, they'll do the investigation, they'll get behind the scenes, they'll look at the bank statements, they'll see if there's actual exploitation going on. And then they'll decide. They'll tell, they'll say, I'll just write, we'll close the case, there's not an issue here. Or they will say, they'll call one of us. And they'll say, we need a case manager, or we're going to need a guardian in this case. And that's what helps that person to the next step. And that's all I have.
So end of life. You just tell real quick why we're talking end of life, and then I'll jump on. Okay. Just to confuse you.
Okay. So Rob's going to cover with you the end of life thing about it's so important, as we talked about all morning so far, being prepared, taking steps to be prepared. Rob's going to cover that at the end of life.
All right, thank you. Brian, hold this out for me for a second, please. By the way, I'm the one that did the special effects on the pack. I've never done anything like that before, but